Chancellor, thank you very much. And now I'll turn to the three great further speakers which the Chancellor mentioned. First up is the man who, as CEO of BT Group since 2008, and his two previous roles there, has transformed that company and put it at the leading edge of telecoms innovation globally. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ian Livingston.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and particularly from those of you outside the UK, welcome to London 2012. It's great to be gathered here for the Olympics, and I thought maybe I should open up by just reflecting on the last time the Olympics were held in London, in 1948. It was a bit different then. ICT was in a different phase. Only a few years earlier, a young gentleman by the name of Tommy Flowers, a GPO engineer, had built the world's first computer in Dollis Hill Post Office, a predecessor of BT. The media centre for the 1948 Olympic Games, a wonderful picture in the BT Tower of it. 4 phones and a desk. We have moved on a bit. And in fact, even 20 years later, in 1968, Mexico I think it was, the moon landing hadn't yet happened, but the computers that would drive it would still have the capacity that were a fraction of today's mobile phones. Even 20 years later, 1988, IT had started to move into the home. The kiddie in the UK was the Amstrad PCW 9512, boasting a massive 720 kilobytes of memory. It was a thing to have. And even 20 years later, in 2008 in Beijing, how many iPads were there? None. It didn't exist. The iPhone was just around. Facebook was in its infancy. And when people talked about cloud, they were referring to the British summer, not to IT infrastructure. And we're now proud and delighted to actually hosting and being part of the technological innovation for the world's most digital Olympic Games. And in some ways, it's the project, archetypal project. It really did have an immovable end date. The requirements for resilience and capability and bandwidth were like no other. And actually, the same issues for the Olympics are the same issues for business. First of all, bandwidth and availability. Secondly, security. Thirdly, and I'll talk about later, BYOD. That does not mean bring your own bottle. It's a D. And finally, globalisation and the impact of that. And first of all, in bandwidth, there's been an absolute explosion in bandwidth-hungry communications since Beijing. Our network today for the Olympics can handle a capacity of 7 times that was provided in Beijing, 7 times. And we've seen it being used. We've already had billions of page hits onto our site, tens of millions of users using it, more than 20 channels from the BBC being used and streaming real time. We've seen iPads, iPhones, smart TVs, all using the things. In the stadium, 1,000 Wi-Fi hotspots in the stadium alone. And it's not just things coming to people. It is people publishing, it's tweeting, it's blogging, it's putting their photos out. We are seeing symmetrical communication like never before. And we're seeing the impact. BT's network usage when Bradley Wiggins won his gold, up 25%. It wasn't a problem. But you see the impact as people are using the network in a very different way than they used to. And part of that bandwidth requirements has been met by Wi-Fi on one hand. Of course, you'll have 4G, but also, as the Chancellor said, by the rollout of fibre. I'm delighted that today the UK has the fastest fibre rollout of any country in the world. In the last 3 months alone, we delivered fibre to another 2 million premises. And by the time of Rio, in just 4 years' time, close to 90% of UK premises will have fibre available to them, offering a whole range of new possibilities not seen before. But with these possibilities, there's challenges, and I mentioned security earlier. Security has been a big issue for the Olympics. Physical security in many senses, but just as important has been cyber security. And that's true for the Olympics, it's also true for businesses. We want to be connected, we must be connected, but there's a problem. Some of that problem can come from sovereign nations, Some of it can come from criminals. Many of it come from hacktivists, with sites in our business always being targeted. You know, they say there's two types of CEO. Those that know their network is being attacked, and those that don't. And it's something that all businesses now need to put at the center of their agenda. It's not an issue for the head of networks in your business. It's not an issue for the CIO. It's not even an issue for the CEO. It is an issue for the whole board. Because we are a community. And as a community, actually, our weakest point is weak for everyone. And the UK is certainly leading the way in protecting security, but security of networks in a connected world is vital. It is for the Olympics, and it is for all of our businesses. And related to that is BYOD, bring your own device. We are seeing the consumerisation of technology. It used to be that business led the way and we all caught up. The first PCs were in the office, the first computers were in the office. It's not that way now. We're seeing new and sexy devices coming from the home. iPads, smartphones, they're all doing that. I mean, I'll just give you an interesting example that happened. As athletes were warming up, we got asked in the Olympics, can we provide them with Wi-Fi passes? Because they were using their iPhones and their iPads whilst they were warming up for the Olympics, just to tweet and speak to people, see data that was happening. Adding it onto a network. And there are, however, good reasons to prevent people bringing their own device, bringing their iPad, bringing their iPhone, I should say Samsung, actually, sorry, here, apologies, Samsung, bring the Samsung devices to the office. There's very good reasons to stop people doing it. It causes security problems. It causes support problems because you don't have a consistent image, you have many different devices, and the cost of support can be quite difficult. And that used to be the attitude. How do we stop people connecting? That can't be the attitude going forward. It has to be, how do we help people to connect, to do it securely and to do it efficiently. And the world is changing. It is not the world of the corporate. The world of the home and the world of business, we are seeing the boundaries dissolve. Today, people work from home, they work flexibly, and when they're in the office, they will often be accessing things from the home, and it's a good thing to do. I'll give you just a little example that we've got. In fact, we show it in the BT Centre outside. We'll have, by the end of this year, almost 10,000 of our engineers going around will actually have the iPhone with them. And they'll have a range of applications that allow them actually to sign off jobs, see where their route are, see where our network are, using consumer applications to create corporate efficiency. And that's something I think the UK is very, very well placed to do. And talking about the UK being well placed, globalisation is a big theme of the Olympics. And the UK, I think we embrace globalisation like no other country does. There's over 200 countries competing here. I'm very glad to say at BT we supply communications to pretty much all of them around the world. But we are entering a different stage of globalisation. You can call it globalisation 2.0. The first stage of globalisation was about Western companies expanding. Well, that's very different now. We're seeing true globalisation now. We're seeing the economies, the fast-growing economies, whether it's Brazil, whether it's China, whether it's India, we're seeing these countries expanding. And I think this is very much the decade, this is the decade of the Asian multinational, and we're going to see that. And that presents real opportunity and challenges, because actually, as we globalise, IT and connectivity is going to become more and more and more important. You need consistency of availability of networks to run all your systems. You need security. You need flexibility, you need scalability. And increasingly with globalisation, it's going to be in odd places. Whether it's satellite dishes having to be put into the Amazon jungle to connect people, whether it's oil rigs around the world, or whether it's actually putting it into nations where you may be expanding the business, but they don't have a traditional fixed network. And that is difficult. And as I said, the UK is really well placed to help with that. First of all, geographically. We take over from the Far East, we hand over to the US. We're in a very good place. We're GMT 0. The English language, even the Scottish language, is very much the global language. We have a legal system that makes it a great place to be. And we actually have the IT and professional services skills. The Chancellor mentioned a couple of our great universities. But within about 80 miles of this building, we have 4 of the top 10 universities in the world. And that produces a great range of graduates. We also have one of the most competitive and available telecoms infrastructures anywhere in the world. There are not many things you can say are cheaper in the UK than they are in the US. But telecommunications cost about 2/3 the price in the UK and the US. That's really great for SMEs, it's really great for consumers, and really great for big corporates, because it means that you can get connected a lot more cheaply. We're already one of the most connected countries in the world. The Chancellor kindly used a couple of my statistics that I was going to use, but I'll give you another one. That 1/3 of all SMEs in the UK sell online. That is the highest number in the whole of Europe, double the European average. We are a connected society. As the Chancellor said, more of our GDP is gone through the internet than any other G8 nation. We are already a very connected society, and we also are a very cosmopolitan society and outward-looking. And that puts us in a great position as globalisation and IT at the centre of it. So I'd say to people who are from the UK, we don't often talk ourselves up enough. We have great advantages in the quality of our people, in the strength of our infrastructure, and the openness of our society. We must talk to people about that. We must tell the world. And for those of you who are guests and have joined us here today from outside the UK, I hope you'll look at this exhibition. You see just a very, very small part of what the UK can do. The Olympics, in summary, is an incredible event. It's exceptional in their own right, but it is also pointing to the future. We are moving to a far more connected world. And that presents risks, but also presents great opportunities we must grab. I'd probably sum it up by a phrase we use at BT. When everything's connected, anything's possible. And I think the UK today and in the future will help to make that anything's possible around the world. Thank you very much.